will call this meeting of the Norfolk City Council to order. This is an open meeting. Posted right around the corner as you walk in is the actual Open Meeting Act. If you would, we're going to ask that you stand with us, please, for a moment of silence and as well, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Beth, we'll continue with roll call.
Rehnquist.
Here.
Lange.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Clausen. Murin.
Here.
Moaning.
Here.
Faust. File.
Here.
Okay, under action items here, I am looking for approval of the consent agenda as provided you.
So move, Your Honor. Second.
I have a motion with a second on approval of the consent agenda. I would ask you to please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
All right, and moving on, before I look for approval of the full agenda from this group, I'm certainly aware of a letter that was received in this office today for a request to pull from our agenda TCK Leasing. And I think there's probably a couple.
Yeah, that's agenda items 22 and 23.
Okay, be items 22 and 23. I understand there's a couple that are going to come forward and maybe talk further to this. And
Mayor, at this time, I believe that my church membership at Our Savior and my employment with Nucor create a conflict, so therefore I will not participate in this vote.
all right, we'll just ask that. See ya? Are you going to walk out?
Yep.
All right. Thanks for coming, Corey.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Ask them to leave?
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Yeah. Speak your name and for.
Mayor and Council, I'm Dick Johnson, and I'm representing TCK Leasing and SWAT LLC on the Our Savior Lutheran Church proposed zoning change. At this time, we're not prepared to proceed with either of these public hearings or these ordinances, and we would ask that items 20, 21, 22, and 23 be removed from the agenda.
Pulled from the agenda. Okay,
And Mark Fitzgerald is here representing Volcraft, and they are on the record as having no objection to removing them from the agenda.
all right. Thanks, Dick.
I
Mark,
guess actually we want to postpone, so whatever wording you
we're
want to
going
use.
to pull
I
it
don't
from
care.
the agenda
Oh,
so
you
that
do
we're,
it?
yep. Very
Okay.
good. All right.
Thank you.
Mark, do you need to address this for us at all, other than letting Dick speak for you?
Yeah, no, I don't want Jake to speak for me, but I don't have any objection.
I appreciate that as well. All right. So, council, we're here. We were here to hear it. However, are we respecting the request that's before you tonight to pull it? I would like to maybe make a recommendation, though, for a date specific, so that we can all be in agreement as to when it's going to be heard.
I would make a recommendation for November 7th.
Is that a Monday night?
It is.
Okay, all right. There's been a motion. Dick, concern?
Your Honor, I'm not 100% sure that we can be ready to go on November 7th. And I'd just like to leave the date open. We'll bring it as soon as we can, but I would prefer not to be tied into a specific date
Okay, are you speaking for SWAT on this one,
for
Dick?
both parties.
Both parties?
Yes.
I thought we had some kind of a,
We had communication from David Madden that they would, Mr. Nelson would be available on the 7th. We did have an email of that. I can show it to you if you.
Well, we'll try to have it by the 7th, but I can't promise that. I would just soon not see a date certain at this point in time.
Dick, how much longer are you thinking we're going to take? It's been a year. Like I say, I think this whole elected body is.
Well, I think the
plenty.
7th will be close, but it might go to the 21st or whatever your next meeting after that is, I don't know.
Can we say November?
You want to have a special meeting?
No, I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
No. All due respect, but it's been a long process, Dick.
Well, I understand that, but
Pardon me?
November of this year.
Yeah, November of
Oh,
this
this
year. Yeah. Are we asking too much?
well, I just want to make sure that we're ready and that both sides are ready before we pull the trigger again.
Council? And there's a motion made by Councilman Merrill that we ask for date certain. He suggested the 7th. Do you want to punch that out?
I'm comfortable removing the request.
Just removing it completely and letting them tell us when? When?
I will not be here after the 7th.
After the 7th? This is where we run into some heartache because
Pardon me?
we run into heartache with council missing on these things too. So that's, again, the reason I was hoping that maybe we could come to an agreement tonight as to.
Well, we'll try to get it, and we'll keep in touch with the
Would you
city
do
and let
that?
you know what's going on.
Okay,
So,
let's do our best, shall
Okay.
we?
we will.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Now, before you vote to remove those, remember Jay.
Right, right. In front of us as well, Jay, why don't you come on up too and address your need? Jay was with us last week, and we didn't have a full council last week, so I'm going to assume maybe Jay, but I'll let you speak for yourself.
I guess I would have the same feeling that, as I did last time, I would like everybody here to hear out both sides of this, and I think that's the fair way of doing it. I would, as quick as possible, would like to have it, because we were shooting for October 14th, which now won't happen, but I would like to be on the agenda for 2 weeks. But at the same time, you know, I guess I really am pretty firm on, I would like to have everybody so we could hear all sides. That's,
All
I would
right,
like,
so-
so I would like a poll tonight,
Very good.
but be on the agenda next time.
All right. I think we can honor that, Jay, unless anybody else has any other comments there. Okay, so yes. Yep. So what we're doing, folks, before we approve the full agenda that's before us, we're actually pulling items 20, 18, and 19, and 20, and 21, and 22, and 23. And I'm going to ask that you vote on pulling those items from the regular, on the full agenda, with a motion if I could.
I'll make a motion.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right. We have a motion with a second to pull those items as stated from the full agenda. Please vote.
All councilmen present voting in the affirmative. Councilman Clausen, Faust, and Granquist absent.
Thanks for coming out, folks. All right. Moving on to, where are we then, Beth? Item number 24.
So we need to approve
Oh, I'm sorry, we need to approve, my fault.
the remaining agenda.
Yeah, we sure do.
Your
All
Honor,
right.
I'd move that we approve the remainder of the agenda then, regular agenda.
We have a motion with a second to approve what remains on the agenda with the omission of those numbered. We have a motion. We have a second. I'm going to ask you to vote.
All council members present
Oh,
voting
yeah.
in the affirmative.
And I was going to skip way down, but, yeah, we're going to jump to the proclamation, which is before us tonight. It's a proclamation for International Alpha Delta Kappa Month, whereas women in education constitute a great portion of the nation's working force and are constantly striving to serve their communities and nation in educational, cultural, and charitable programs leading to harmony, happiness, and peace among all people. And whereas major goals of Alpha Delta Kappa International Honorary Association for Women Educators are to give recognition to outstanding educators, to build a fraternal fellowship among educators, adding to their effectiveness in promoting excellence in education, and to establish high standards in education, to promote educational and charitable projects and activities enriching the lives of individuals everywhere, and assisting these individuals into happy, constructive, and fulfilling lives. Now therefore, I, Sue Fookman, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2016 as International Alpha Delta Kappa Month, October 3rd, 2016. And I know this was presented to us. I don't see her here to receive this, so Beth will make sure it gets to it. And now we're going to skip down to 24, a public hearing to amend City Code Section 27-39, 27-242, and 27-248 to revise the amendment notice requirements and the code relating to the floodplain overlay district. I'm going to open this public hearing, and I believe, Val, I'm going to look to you first to give us reason for an explanation.
Yes, thank you. The floodplain code that we're asking for relates back to the community assistance visit that we got from the state floodplain department last fall. And we found a accessory, they call it a pertinent structure, in the floodplain that was below base flood elevation. And we discovered that we did not have something that the state floodplain code allows in our code to let an appurtenant structure be below the base flood elevation with wet flood proofing. So that's what we're including into the floodplain ordinance. And then we're also adding the appurtenant structure definition in there, which we did not have. And then the last thing, since we were making revisions to it, we also discovered that we had a 15-day noticing period for some reason that we asked the state people, and they weren't quite sure why or where that came from, so we're making it consistent with all the other public hearings.
Okay, great explanation. Appreciate all the work that's gone into this. Again, it's a public hearing. Is there anyone else that may wish to speak to this or might have questions on what Val has explained? Okay, if not, council, any questions or discussion on this? All right, hearing none. Planning Commission report, Beth?
The Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 20, 2016, to consider amending the official city code, sections 27-39, 27-242, and 27-248 to revise the amendment notice requirements and code relating to the floodplain overlay district. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the amendment on a 7-0 vote.
All right, with that, I'm going to close the hearing and look for consideration of ordinance number 5434, approving the amendment to city code of the sections 2739, 27-242, and 248 to revise the amendment as provided by Val.
Your Honor, I offer for consideration ordinance number 5434.
Second that, Your Honor.
All right, we have a motion with a second for consideration. Any other further discussion?
Your Honor, it looks like it's merely housekeeping and updating, so I think it should move forward as
Very good.
swiftly as possible.
All right, appreciate that. Appreciate again, Val, the work on that, and we'll look for a short title from Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 27-39 of the official city code to require 10 days' notice for a public hearing related to amendments to the floodplain overlay district, to amend Section 27-242 of the official city code, and to add a definition for a pertinent structure, to amend Section 27-248 of the code to address flood proofing of appurtenant structures, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right, with that, I ask for your vote.
All council members present, voting in the affirmative. Councilman Clausen and Faust absent. Ordinance 5434 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, again, as I noted, I see this as housekeeping. I would move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5434 on second and third.
Second?
All right, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5434 on second and third. If no further discussion, Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5434 carries on second and third.
Okay, next, item 26 is looking for consideration of ordinance number 5435, enacting a new section 24-284 to regulate the placement of roll-off refuse boxes on street right-of-way and to prohibit the placement of construction supplies and landscaping materials on street right-of-way, to renumber the current section 24-284 of the code and to amend said section to include bicycles, tricycles, unicycles, and the prohibition of clinging to vehicles. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Your Honor.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second. Shane, you want to talk to this one?
Yes, Your Honor. Mayor, Council, been working on this ordinance for a little while. Staff's been working on it in light of roll-offs being placed in the street right away and all over the community. I don't want to make it sound like it happens every day, but it does happen. It creates a safety hazard for us, and the public safety personnel recognize that safety hazard without having the proper markings there and barricades there to highlight the fact that the boxes are in the street right away. So this is an effort to try to reduce that. To be quite frank, this is an effort to move them onto the private ground. It would be the best scenario, so they're completely off the street right away. If they can't be, there is this permit that would be available to the roll-off owners, and then they'd have a requirement to put up the correct traffic control devices in order to make sure the traveling public can see it in the middle of the night and it doesn't create as large as safety hazard as it does when it's not marked. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the roll-offs in particular. And then also the cleaning of the vehicles for bicycles and tricycles and unicycles is just more or less a housekeeping thing to include those in the code. So those are illegal as well. So we don't have citizens grabbing a hold of cars as they're driving down the street and taking a ride on their bicycle or tricycle or unicycle, which would be quite a feat, I think. But anyway, that is a cleanup of the code as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, any questions or comments or on any of this? Just you use your imagination there, Councilman. How about a short title, Beth? You got one?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to enact a new section 24-284 of the official city code to regulate the placement of roll-off refuse boxes on street right-of-way and to prohibit the placement of construction supplies and landscaping materials on street right-of-way, to renumber the current section 24-284 of the code and to amend said section to include bicycles, tricycles, and unicycles in the prohibition of clinging to vehicles, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right. If nothing further, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5435 carries on first reading.
You want to do this again?
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5435 on second and third readings.
Second.
All right, we have a motion with a second to pass ordinance number 5435 on second and third, suspending the rules. If no further discussion, again, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5435 carries on second and third.
And last is consideration of ordinance number 5436, amending section 2-5 of the city code to include an application fee to appeal a decision of a building code official, to update registration fees for electrical contractors, mechanical contractors, and fire alarm installers, to remove a permit fee for commercial hood systems, to update the fee for car tire disposal, and to add a permit fee for placing roll-off refuse boxes on the street right-of-way. Looking for consideration of.
Your Honor, I move consideration of ordinance 5436.
Second?
All right, we have a motion with a second for consideration of 5436. Clint, your name is next to this for me.
It is, huh?
Yes, sir.
There's really three components to this ordinance. There's obviously some building codes and registration fees related to contractors and the like, and I see Trent's here that can address any of those with specificity that you might want. In the last time that we had cleaned this up, we had a number, if you recall, we had a number of Rob's fees related to solid waste disposal, and I think that the car tire disposal just kind of didn't make it in there, so I think that's the only one that you've got in there, Rob, right? And then the other provision here is the permit fees for the refuse boxes, provides for the fee for placement of the box on the street if that's present, and also if there's an extension of that pursuant to the ordinance. So those are the fees that are there, and we can, other staff or myself could talk to any of those that you have any particular questions about.
Clint, this says to include an application fee to appeal a decision of a building code official. Is there not a fee, an application fee for appeal right now?
I knew I had to come up here. Hi, Mayor, Council.
Mr. Howard, how are you?
Good. Randy took my seat over there, so.
Get along, you two, get along. I think they always call it age, Trent, it's got a little prevalent. Remember that.
All right, Mayor and Council, 2-5 is obviously a big animal sometimes when we go to change or amend. Most of the things that you're seeing in here, other than the refuse box, is old. We've been charging all those fees. We just cleaned up the language. So before, and specifically for your question, Councilman Moaning, the $500 fee is kind of a standard fee that we have for, we have that for property maintenance appeal, for building code appeal. Any of our appeal processes is at the $500 mark. Quite a few years ago, I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was $250, but that was changed quite some time ago. 2-5 was never updated. In fact, it wasn't even in there. So we're just basically updating 2-5. And all the application, or the first time, you'll see the language where we crossed out original. We're just trying to make that easier for somebody that gets on our website to look at that and go, first time issuance of any license instead of original. They were confused on what original meant. So we changed that. We added the years. Once again, we were always charging these fees. Some of them you see a fee increase, actually on like the electrical contractor registration fee. We added the 2-year license. We just added the 2-year part. It's always been a 2-year license. And we've been charging $100 for quite some time, but 2-5 wasn't updated once again. So most of all these are just updates to help clean up 2-5 that matches everything that we're doing now. If you have any questions, I can keep going through each one of these individually if you want me to.
Dollar
Yeah,
amount.
did you want that?
Yeah, you might want to give some clarification there. And just, yeah.
Talking about something else, Trent.
So Trent, the application fee to appeal a decision of the building code official, if that fee is paid, what happens then?
Well, then it goes.
That $500 is used for?
Well, that's paid to the city of Norfolk, and then it goes to the Board of Adjustment, or board of, one of the boards, depending whether it's property maintenance, a building code, or zoning, depending on which board it goes to. So we have that same appeal process on zoning process. It's a normal appeal process. So if we write a letter and somebody appeals our decision, so we demo something, they're like, no, this is perfect. We don't want that. They can appeal our decision. But to appeal it, there's a $500 fee.
And the fee is designed to cover labor?
Well,
In doing the work it would take to
I guess.
talk about the appeal?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or is it just an arbitrary number that,
Go ahead.
May I?
please,
I think it's a.
happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And many more.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Almost threw me off, but not quite. The fee, I think that if we go back a number of years historically, there was no fee.
Yeah, way back.
Way back, there was no fee. And so where this first came about was in looking at what was happening when the code staff primarily was coming about, if I recall correctly, and Trent, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we'd have code staff go out and condemn a house, okay? And basically, their notice then would say, okay, here's your notice, and your house is condemned, and it needs to be torn down within 30 days, unless you appeal it, and you have 20 days to appeal it. Well, one of the things that happened is that we had lots of people appealing the tearing down of their property, because not that they really debated the tearing down of the property, but just then they didn't have to do it so soon. So what happened as we went through that is that we were having really a lot of meritless appeals where we were prevailing upon the good volunteers that served on that board and so on and so forth. So that was one of the criteria. Second criteria, there are some costs associated with publication of public hearing and so on and so forth. Beth could probably talk about what the actual costs of those are. I don't know what those are, but, and then the third thing that comes along is one of the things that we do as a staff when we have some of these issues is we'll make a determination, we'll talk amongst ourselves and say, hey, is this something that we need to get a court reporter for? Is this something that is apt to stop here before the board? Or is this something that's apt to go on? Sometimes we predict a little better than others in regard to that, but you can kind of tell by the issues when the parties fills out the application, you can tell what the issues are and all of those things. So primarily, I think that's the reason and where the fee goes. If you have some additional questions, try to answer them.
No, I don't. That's a good explanation, Clint, thank you. I was just going to make sure it wasn't a punitive fee, and it doesn't sound like it is.
No, it's not punitive anymore. I mean, court reporters are starting to come into these almost because the amount of time for somebody to back listen to a tape and figure out who said what and then rewrite that. So court reporters are being, in case it goes to district court. So we're just, it's part of the preparation. And there's a lot of legwork on the backside of all those. I think some of them came about when the signs, I think way back when, before my time, there was a lot of sign appeals, and I don't, maybe you guys can fill me in on those, but that goes back a ways, so.
Thank you, Trent. Thank you, Clint.
Okay, any other questions for Trent? You're free.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
All right. Any other discussion at all, council, or questions?
May I, Mayor?
Oh, certainly.
I think
It's your
that
birthday.
one of the the one thing, and I had before Rob asked the question, and now I lost my place, is I didn't think I stated what the fees were for the roll-off. Okay, and so the ordinance that was just the prior item on the agenda talked about a 10-day permit would cost $50. And then if there was an extension for a 5-day extension was $25. So those are the fees that are there. I don't think that in either of those discussions we had talked about that. So just wanted to throw that out there so that it was there.
Okay, any other questions, council? If not, I'm thinking we probably have a short title, Beth? Kind of long title, okay?
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 2-5 of the official city code to include an application fee to appeal a decision of a building code official, to update registration fees for electrical contractors, mechanical contractors, and fire alarm installers, to remove a permit fee for commercial hood systems, to update the fee for car tire disposal, to add a permit fee for placing roll-off refuse boxes on street right-of-way, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
All right, and with that, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5436 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, because it is somewhat of a housekeeping thing, I'm going to move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5436 on second and third.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second to suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5436 on second and third. Roll call, please.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5436 carries on second and third.
Okay, and next, we, as the city council, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session to discuss and to update us as elected officials on the potential religious land use and institutionalized persons litigation.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Okay, motion with a second? Roll call, please. Vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
All right. The motion carried. This closed session is to discuss and to update only the elected officials on the potential religious land use and institutionalized persons act litigation. So we'll go into the training room for the closed session.